part 36 of ASP.NET MVC tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss the differences between TextBox and TextBoxFor and drop-down list and drop-down list for HTML helpers. Please watch part 35 before proceeding. Let's understand the differences with an example. Let's first design a view with a text box and a drop-down list controls. In the text box control, we want to display a company name, and within the drop-down list, we want to display the list of departments that are available within that company. So obviously the first step here is to add a company class. So let's flip to Visual Studio. Let's add a class file to our models folder, and let's call it company.cs. And to speed things up, I have this company class code already implemented, so let me paste that right here. And if you look at this code, that's very straightforward. So I have a private field here to store the name of the company because we want the name to be displayed within the text box control. And then I have a constructor here to initialize this private field. And then I have departments public property, which is going to return the list of departments that are available in this table TBL department. To retrieve the departments from this database table, we are using the sample DB context class. And if you remember, the sample DB context class is coming from the sample data model, and this is nothing but the ADO.NET entity data model. We have discussed building this ADO.NET entity data model in the previous sessions of this video series. So this class is going to connect to the database, and then using this departments property, it is going to retrieve and return the list of departments. So this property is used to return the departments. And then I have another public property here, company name, which is going to return the name of the company that is stored in this private field. So a very simple and straightforward company class with one private field, one constructor, and two public properties, that is departments and company name. Alright, now let's go ahead and implement the index action within home controller. To speed things up, I have the controller action method code implemented as well. So let me copy and paste that. And before I do that, now within this home controller, we want to use this company class. And if you look at this company class, this is residing in this MVC demo.models namespace. So within home controller, let's go ahead and include that namespace. Alright, now let's go ahead and paste the index action method code. And if you look at this code, again, this is very straightforward. All we are doing here is creating an instance of this company class. And if you remember, this company class constructor is expecting a parameter to be passed in, that is the name of the company. So here we are passing Prajim as the name of the company. And then notice what we are doing here. We are retrieving the departments and passing them to the constructor of the select list class. Basically, within the drop-down list, we want to display the list of departments. So we are passing the list of departments to the select list to prepare a select list for the drop-down list. And obviously, if you look at the department class, it has got three properties: ID, name, and isSelected. Out of these three properties, which property is going to be a data value field and which property is going to be data text field? We want ID as the data value field and name as the data text field, and that's what we are specifying right here. So that is the data value field, and this is going to be data text field. And then we are storing the select list for the drop down list within view bag using this departments dynamic expression, and similarly we are storing the company name within company name dynamic expression, again in the view bag. And then we are returning a view. So now the next step is to actually add a view. So I'm going to right click on this index action method, add view. The name of the view is going to be index. We are going to make use of Razor View Engine, but then we are not going to create a strongly typed view. I'm going to leave this unchecked, and then click add. This should add an index view. Now let me copy the index view code right here. Again, it's just 2 lines of code, and to save time in typing, I have this already typed, so let me copy and paste that. So if you look at here, we are using text box and drop down list, not text box for and drop down list for. And then look at this here, the first parameter is the name for the text box, and I'm hard coding that. I'm hard coding the name of the text box as company name. And then within this text box control, we want to display the company name, so I'm retrieving the company name from the dynamic expression company name from the view bag, typecasting it to be of type string. Okay, so this should render a text box and display company name Prajim within that. Okay, and then here we are using drop down list HTML helper, and notice that here again the property which contains the dynamic expression which contains our list of departments is hard coded. I mean, is within that double quotes there, it's hard coded there. And then within the drop down list we want select department as the first option. This is passed as the second parameter to this drop down list HTML helper. With these changes, let's actually go ahead and run this, and when the web form renders, as you might expect, we should have a text box control and a drop down list control with the list of departments. So there we go. And then let me right click on that and view page source, and notice the HTML here. Especially pay attention to ID and the name attributes of this text box control, and again ID and name attributes of the drop down list control. Okay, now let me add another index action method, but this time the name is going to be index1. And again I have this code already typed, so let me copy that and paste within our home controller. And notice this code again, this is 2 lines and very straightforward. The name of the action method here is index1. We are creating an instance of the company. Again we are specifying the name of the company as Prajim, and then we are passing that company object to the view. Notice that here we are not passing any model object to the view, but here we are passing this company object to the view. And now I'm going to right click on this index action, add a view. The name of the view is going to be index1. We're going to use Razor View Engine, and I'm going to create a strongly typed view against our company class. And the scaffold template is going to be empty because we are going to write the HTML that's required. So let me click on add. That should add index1 view. And notice here at model is mvcdemo.models.company. So this view is strongly typed against the company class, whereas this index.cshtml, this doesn't have that model. Okay, so this is not a strongly typed view, whereas index1.cshtml is a strongly typed view. And then to render the text box and a drop down list control, since this is strongly typed view, I can use the strongly typed versions of the HTML helpers, which are nothing but TextBoxFor and drop down list for HTML helpers. Now let me again copy this code and paste it within index1.cshtml view. So if you look at this code, look at this, instead of text box I'm using TextBoxFor HTML helper. And then notice that what is the model for our view? It's company. So m such that, since model is the company object, look at that, I'm able to retrieve the company name property. It's not hard coded here. Okay, so now look at this, I'm not specifying the name for the text box, I'm just passing a lambda expression here. Within this text box control I want to display the company name. Okay, and I'm specifying that using this lambda expression. And look at this drop down list here. Again, I want this drop down list to include the list of departments, so I'm using that lambda expression. If you remember, company object has got departments property, which is going to return the list of departments, and using that list, generate a select list item for the drop down list. Okay, and that's what we are doing here. So we are creating an instance of new select list class, and we are saying, okay, this property is going to contain the list of departments, out of which I want ID to be the value field and name to be the text field. And then we want select department as the first option within the drop down list. Okay, so with these changes, let me run this. Let's actually navigate to index1 view. So we are on index1 view, and notice that we have a text box control and a drop down list control. Let me right click on that and view page source. And then again look at the ID and name for the text box control and ID and name of the drop down list control. This HTML is exactly the same as this HTML. So this is the HTML for index view, and this is the HTML for index1 view. So the end result is the same, but then in index1 we are using these strongly typed HTML helpers, where in index view we are using their counterparts which are not strongly typed. Now let's understand the differences. Let's flip to the presentation. So HTML text box and HTML drop down list are not strongly typed, hence they don't require a strongly typed view. We have seen that practically. This means that we can hard code whatever name we want. On the other hand, HTML.TextBox4 and HTML.DropDownList4 are strongly typed and they require a strongly typed view, and the name of the controls is inferred from the lambda expression. And strongly typed HTML helpers provide compile time checking. Let's understand what we mean by this. Now here we have this company class which is going to act as our model for the views. Okay, now look at this. If you look at the way we have implemented this index.cshtml, notice that here, this property is hard-coded departments. Now, if I go ahead and change, basically the name of the property within this model class here, so let's say departments1, for example, I have changed the name of the property. Now, if you look at index.cshtml, I don't have any errors here within this view. But then if I look at index1.cshtml, look at that, the view has already flagged them as errors because the model property has changed. So, that's reflected within the strongly typed view. So that's the advantage, the greatest advantage of using these strongly typed HTML helpers. They provide compile time error checking. Since in real time we mostly use strongly typed views, prefer to use HTML.TextBoxFor and HTML.DropDownList4 over their counterparts. Whether we use HTML.TextBox or their counterparts, that is HTML.TextBox4, the end result is the same. That is, the same HTML is generated, and we have seen that practically as well. And strongly typed HTML helpers are added in MVC2. They are not available in MVC1. So these are basically the differences between the strongly typed versions and their counterparts. On this slide you can find resources for ASP.NET, C# and SQL Server interview questions. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.